We'll just give them a few more minutes, guys, just to see if anyone else is grabbing chocolates from downstairs, and they're going to turn up in a few minutes. So we're just mentioning there, before you guys come, why we're here today, and we're all, I guess, food commercial. So we're, majority of us on this side of the fence, which we rather intermingle. We're from security, information security teams. There's analysts and there's security testers here. I'm dedicated as a tester to the food commercial family. I'm really the only tester for security that's for the whole family. We're short on resources, we're very limited on resources. And so it's a struggle for us to do security testing across the entire estate. And so we're looking at ways of automating this and new ways of working within that. And so the reason why we're doing it with food commercial, I guess this is all of us, right? So I'll just start the talk. Yeah. So the introduction, my name's Saeed Shah, and I'm from the information security team. I'm a pen tester, penetration tester. My key responsibilities in food commercial is looking for vulnerabilities within the products you guys build, within our systems that are running in production, to look for exploits and known vulnerabilities and feed that back to you guys so you can fix it and have secure systems. My background is spent over a decade in software engineering. I've worked around the world at Sony, NBC, William Hill, various different companies as a lead developer. I worked here at Sainsbury's as a lead developer originally. So I've got a lot of experience in them teams and working within software development life cycles and working within projects with product owners, delivery managers, Agile coaches and the whole team, testers and developers. And so that's my background. I've been in software development for a long, long time, studying uni, and I've seen the changes in software development come and go. I remember working in software development teams when test-driven development wasn't a thing. It was being wrote about, and we was thinking about it, and we had it bolted on at the end, and we developed stuff and test it at the end and realized we've got to go back through the cycle, and we realized that didn't work for us, and we needed to change the way software development worked. And so we started, theorizing and implementing test-driven development, and that really worked for us. And now it's a standard de facto thing that, when we start developing, we start testing, unit testing first, and making sure that we can capture any issues really early on in that development life cycle. And so that was a big change for software developers when that came along, and there was a lot of pushback, there was a lot of uncertainty, unknowing, and it was a change in the way we worked. And none of us like to change the way we work because we're comfortable in what we do. So there was disruption there, but now, as we see, you guys are probably familiar, that's just a standard way of working now. We've adopted that, it works really well, and it's a standard practice in software development. We're hoping to, today's talk's about Agile security. How do we deliver Agile security? It's specifically Agile security testing as well, because we do a lot of security work with you guys in your project teams, from requirements, design stage, right through to the pen testing, what we do right at the end. And it's not really Agile. It fits into your Agile ways of working, but the security part of it is not Agile. Right? So we do a lot of Agile at the very beginning, and you guys build lots of systems and deploy them and test them, and there's very little testing going on in terms of security testing there. We do automated testing, functional testing, unit testing, regression testing, loads of testing, integration testing. We've got flashing lights of green, amber, and telling us what our state is, and we're really comfortable there. But if I ask you what's your security state in a sprint cycle, you struggle to identify that, and it's no fault of your own. We just need to improve that and move away from this. As our strapline says, we want to be able to bake in security processes into your development life cycle. We don't want to bolt them on at the end. Various problems with that. If we talk about the product owners and delivery managers, because there's a lot of focus here around engineers, but how does it affect you guys? Well, you've got 3 key requirements. making sure that your projects are delivered on time, to requirements, and within budget, right? And currently, this model that we're working with, you guys go through various different sprints, you build some really cool stuff and really great products, and then it comes to the security testers to do a pen test at the end, and we discover loads of vulnerabilities. We come back to you, and it's not a great feeling that we've got to tell you that this product isn't what we want, it doesn't meet the requirements, and you guys are like, well, we got all our requirements at the beginning, how do we end up here? We expect you guys to go through another development iteration, and that's a cost for your resources, cost for the project. So again, that's one of the key requirements, broken right at the end of the cycle. And it's security to blame for that, because we're telling you can't get past the line, you can't go live until you fix these issues. And yeah, your go live date fails then, because we're saying no, you can't go live because we've got reds showing up on vulnerabilities, and it's not a great feeling for us and for yourselves. And there's a bit of conflict that builds up there. We're looked at as the police, the blockers, the stoppers. We're not enablers, and it's just not working really well. For best endeavors from both of us, from all areas of the company, it's not something that we're purposely doing. We're trying to fit in, but just we're not fitting into the agile way of working in development cycles. So we've been tasked by the SLT to come up with a SSDLC, a secure software development lifecycle, something that works within your way of working, development teams, project teams, that it's not this bolted on at the end, because that really gives us problems, cost delivery, and requirements, understanding the requirements. So just to show our hands, does anyone feel like they're doing agile security at the minute? Does anyone think that they're doing that or feel like they're doing agile security? Is anyone doing any agile security? It's happening, so that's good. Is anyone doing agile security testing? No. Fantastic. That's why we're here. That's what we want to talk about. I know Paul's smiling when we say that, automation. And really, we've all been through it. Most of it, across the estate, we've discussed this in various aspects, and we need to try and fix it. We need a solution. So that's what we're here with this pilot program within food and commercial, is to get that agile security understood and the tools and mechanisms around it to deploy it across the estate. Technology is failing on us. Yeah. Go manual. Okay. Quickly, some of the current problems that we have in security that is helping or adding to the failures of the current ways of working is, in security, we don't all know the development processes. We're not all software engineers. We don't do software development ourselves, and some of us are from different backgrounds, consultancy, standards and practices, some of them as web administrators, system administrators. We come from various different backgrounds, and I think I'm one of the only few that comes from a software engineering background. And that's kind of representative across the security industry as a whole. Not a lot of us are from software engineering background. So we don't all know these development processes. It's IDE tools, the frameworks that you use, the libraries that you use in, the IDEs, all of the mechanisms that you use to build software. It's kind of just on a high level understanding for a lot of the security guys. And that's not to say that we can't achieve it. It's just at the beginning stages, the guys that you work with, they're not developers and they're not from that development background. So you kind of feel non-techie because of the consultancy approach to it. We come with heavy requirements, documents up front, NFRs, loads of them, tons of you guys have to understand. We haven't even built anything, and it's all so complex to begin with. You've got to go through data clinics, so it's a long drawn-out process, and it's a struggle, it's cumbersome, it's not what we want, it's not agile. Well, it's needed. It's a mandatory thing that we have to go through. It's the best practices. It's standards and requirements. We need it, and so it's all done at the beginning, and it's quite heavy. It's a lot of work. Other issues that we have is we're a non-resource to your project teams. We're not dedicated. You don't have a dedicated security tester, analyst on your project. We're kind of spread very lightly across the entire estate. As I said, I'm the only pen tester assigned now through a new restructuring to the food and commercial family product, and there's one for each family, so there's limited resources there. Sometimes we turn up in suits and you guys are in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt, and it's a bit of a culture clash, and it's like, oh, who's these guys turning up? They look like the police. Engagement, we struggle to get engaged with you guys because we're not always there, and we turn up at the beginning, turn up at the end, and we just come with what you guys see as problems. And it's, that engagement is not really where we want it to be, so we need to improve on that. And as I said, it's a mandatory thing. It's the SLT saying we need to be secure, we need these security measures, we need security best practices, so it's enforced a bit on us, and it's a bit of the policing state of mind there that comes across, and that's the feedback we get as well when it's an open forum, that it's a bit more like the police that are coming to us, blocking and stopping us. Oops. Some of the problems with development from a security point of view is developers not much really. I mean, you guys are super techy, you're eager to learn, you've got the finger on the trigger, and if we say to you, here's a vulnerability, we identify it, you guys can fix it, not a problem. The problem is you're not sure what you need to do. You're not sure about what are the vulnerabilities in a quick enough time to fix them. You only know this bolted on stage when we come with that report saying, oh, they're all reds, you can't go live. It's chaos running around with RAFs to get heads of technology to sign something to get us quickly getting over there. These heads of technology, heads of technology have to sign off on something they're not really that sure about. It's a last minute thing. We build up this pressurized environment, and risk is all over the place, and it's just not where we need to be. We need to get you guys trained. We need to make sure that you're aware of what tools are there for you. So there's a lot more engagement and training and awareness that we feel that you guys need to be able to carry out agile security testing. Workloads, the priorities we don't really feel are there in security because you don't really know them till the end, so you can't prioritize them at the beginning. Until we've identified what are the vulnerabilities in a timely manner, you can't really prioritize them in your sprints. There's other issues around workarounds. When you're short on time, you have to do a quick workaround. We find issues around there, but it's identified too late, and again, it's just about to go live, and fixing that is a very costly exercise, especially late on in the day. It takes time, and it's a problem. Inherited code bases with legacy issues where you're not really sure, you're not familiar with the code base, and it's not something that you're constantly changing. We see a lot of issues around here when we're not able to agile test that code base. Again, we're mandatory, so we're slow in terms of agile. We don't fit in there in your sprints. We can't be testing continuously, can't be feeding in them requirements back into your backlog, and so on. We're not fitting, and we're disconnected. We come at the beginning, come at the end, and you guys have got when you're in a development team, it's an amazing feeling. It's very family oriented. You all know each other. You go for lunches. It's very cliquey, and it's lovely when you're in there. But when you're not in there, it's really hard to break in when you just turn up out of the blue, and you want something doing within that project, and it's like, get out of here, guys. We've got you're not in our clique, and it's just part of how teams form, and sure you know about the problems you have in teams anyway. Never mind outsiders coming in. So there's some of the problems that we've got that we're trying to address with the SSDLC. We want to make security agile, security testing agile. So what is SSDLC? Well, the S in SSDLC stands for Secure Software Development Lifecycle. It's a methodology, so it's just a theory, it's a way of working. There's many ways you can do it, it's not set in stone. It's just extending on existing methodologies that we use, so it's extending the existing software development lifecycle, design, build, test, deploy, or a variation of that. What's the acceptance criteria? What comes out of it once we do this secure testing? Currently it's a vulnerability report. It's a report that you'll get to identify any issues that you've got, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's code, or it's a system, service, application, whatever it is. You'll get a report identifying your issues, and if we implement it in an agile way, you'll get that in every sprint. Every time you go through an iteration of development, you should be able to identify any security vulnerabilities and address them accordingly in a timely manner, fed back into the secure development lifecycle. So from the report, you end up with a set of tasks that you can go back into your backlog, and that feeds in nicely into that development lifecycle. What's the objective of it is to have a more secure infrastructure application service. And stick your hand up if you want to ask any questions. I'm happy to stop at any point and digress and discuss. So that's what is SSDLC. When you hear about it, a lot of people are sending mails around. We're trying to get in newsletters, cloud news. The SLT are sending messages out. Loads of messages are going around. There's a bit of confusion around what is it, how are we doing it. We've tried various approaches, which I'll discuss in a minute, that we don't feel have worked and you guys don't feel have worked. But where we're trying to get to for the SSDLC is an automated way of security testing. What we call shifting left. So currently we've got control of security testing in the security division, and we're outside of your development teams that we discussed. We need to shift that left and give you the capabilities of doing your own security testing. So that's why we want to be. Why are we implementing it? As we've discussed, there's a lot of work that goes into this design stage, even security work. You come up with ideas, you brainstorm your architecture, you do secure architecture, you do proof of concepts. You have security analysts coming in with all those requirements, NFRs, docs, all sorts of stuff. Really, really great work goes into this design stage, and it's a really costly exercise because we spend a lot of time, resources, and effort getting all of that requirements for our products identified at the early stage. They all get passed on to developers in various ways, whether they're tasks in your sprint board, whether they're architectural documents, whatever it gets sent down as a requirement, it's given to the developers, infrastructure, software developers, to build it based on them requirements. So the guys go off and they start building, they build infrastructure, they get their pipelines ready, they set them up, your developers are building software, they're getting sent through them pipelines, and there's automation, continuous integration, continuous deployment going on. And we're building all these infrastructures and services that we're looking to deploy into production. They go through various cycles of development, and we include the testing in there, so you make sure that you know the infrastructure that you built, can it take the load that we're expecting, the functionality that we're building, does it work as expected. All of them tests that you guys know and do continuously in your continuous integration and continuous delivery. We're comfortable here and we know what's going on. As we mentioned, it's a traffic light system. We can easily identify the state that we're in, and we get good feedback, and at any point we can identify the state we're in. And then we deploy that. We've gone through deployment to test, to dev, to pre-prod, to all these different staging environments, so we can get to deploy to live. And very, very close to that stage is when we do that big bang approach, security approach, is usually the case. It's usually a few weeks before the go live date, when we feel like we've got an entire system built, when we've got an entire application built, and it's the end goal of what we want to do, so we feel like that's the best time to test it. And we hit all them problems, and we have to go back through the cycle, and it's a costly exercise. Where we want the future cycle to be is, we don't want it to change, so we don't want to completely radicalize what you're doing and completely change the way you're working so you feel like this is completely new to us. We just want to plug in the security testing into this cycle, and we just want to make sure that you are doing this security testing. We give you the mechanisms and the ability to do that in every time you do a cycle. So every time infrastructure is being built and you're pushing it through your pipelines, you're deploying that to somewhere we can automatically test it. Same as when applications and software are being built and they get deployed across that pipeline to a development environment. We want to make sure that our tools can get to that environment or get to that code base and check it every time it changes to make sure it identifies any issues that we're creating there, or that we haven't seen or identified. Go ahead, Michael.
So, just a quick question. So, in terms of, we normally use third parties, well, like NCC and
yeah.
Are we saying that will not be needed so much?
It's a good question, and I think that's what everyone's wanting answering is, if we introduce this agile security and we introduce continuous testing, security testing within the development lifecycle, at the end of that, do we not need to have a pen test? It's to be agreed on with, dependent on your product that you're building. So if you've just started out and it's at the design stage or investigation stage, and you say, okay, we need an SSDLC, and you start them on, what's going to happen is from sprint 1 to, let's say, sprint 10, you're going to identify your risk status or your risk score by continuously testing your infrastructure and your software. And at the sprint 10, you've got a clear understanding of what you've found, what you've identified, what you've fixed, what's left to be fixed. And it's not an entire, the security tools that we use will capture most of the low-hanging fruit, the easy-to-detect security vulnerabilities. Stuff that we miss in development that we're not testing for because we don't have the right mechanisms and tools there to test for. Will they test those intricate business logic user journeys that you're building? Sometimes we can build, I'll discuss in a minute, sometimes some of the tools that we're going to give you, you can give them your Selenium user journeys, a video recorded testing script, and it'll go through that and try to inject. But it's not going to find 100% of all the vulnerabilities. So we still will need, for some of your projects, a pen test. But if it's an internal system that's not public facing, that's got a lower priority than Groceries Online, and you've had that continuous risk score going on, we might make the stance to say, actually, we're quite comfortable deploying this live without a pen test because of the risk score that we built up, because of the understanding of the security issues that we fixed. We'll take a step on that. But did it mean, Michael, answer your question, with no more pen testing, am I out of a job? Let's hope not. And I don't think so. Our Grocery Online is such a vital component to the business that even with all the best testing out there, we still want every possible measure of security we can do there. It's just too important to us to not spend that money. But if it's a lower system that's maybe not even in the cloud, but it's a standalone one server, and it's a small, quick project, we've got a short timeline, and you've had the tools there available, that could definitely help towards you going live. There's still some agreement on whether that's, as we haven't got the SSDLC, we want to see it in motion first and see what are we identifying and how does that reduce the risk on a product before we say no more pen testing. But it will definitely allow you to, instead of having that big bang pen test at the end and identifying all that low-hanging fruit and lots of issues for you to go through again when your go-live date was so close, having these tools will identify those issues really early on, and you shouldn't hit that big block of work at the end of a development cycle. Hi, come in. Sorry.
Are you talking about upskilling our engineers to do this testing, or putting additional resources into them with the skills to do this testing?
There's a bit of upskilling, yeah, because it's a new tool, it's a new technology brought onto your, into your product teams. So if you was to take on a new testing framework, functional testing framework, you'd have to upskill, you have to understand what is that framework, how do we use it, how do we best use it, what are the best practices. So there is some upskilling. We're basing it on technologies, so the design that we're using now is going to be using RESTful API calls, something that most of the devs should be familiar with. It'll be wrapped in a simple Python utility to start with so that everyone can use it, so cross-platform teams can use it. So are we going to expect more resources added to your teams? No. Can we upskill the existing resources? Definitely. Is the training available? Definitely. Are the technologies that we're using in line with our Simon's objectives for the company is keeping the technologies consistent across the estate? Yeah, we're using RESTful APIs that we're building ourselves internally. And the crux of it, when we've discussed with the vendors, is the simple approach. We keep the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. And And we tried to deploy this in the easiest possible way, a simple Python script calling the set of APIs to do a scan on your application, your infrastructure, is the easiest way we see it. So we don't feel like you'll need to bring in new resources. There'll be a little bit of upskilling and education around it. So what have we tried in order to get to the automative point? We've tried manual onboarding to web-based portals. So some of you might be familiar with checkmarks if you've been working with us. We've tried to, configure your code bases into a web portal where we manually press play and it runs a report. Again, that disconnect with development teams is there. Again, that security is not shifted left. You guys don't own. You have to come to us and ask us to do security testing for you. It's not agile. It's not within your current ways of working. And it's heavy administrative right there. It's one of us in the security team has to do user management, has to manage your tests, and it's just not a way we want to work in today's engineering teams and IT companies. We've done ad hoc implementations per project just to see how can we get to where we want to be, and it's confusing sometimes because we all talk and we say, oh, we're doing it this way, we're doing it that way. Some people have different ideas of implementing it. And as we said, it's a methodology, so you can implement it however you feel. So that can be different to different people, different projects. But we want a consistent approach to begin with, that it's a very simple one that any project can take. So very simple utility, you can call it from anywhere within your lifecycle. Whether you're in the cloud or not in the cloud, whether you're in Azure or AWS, we want to keep it very simple, give it to you guys to own, so you own the security testing, and then you should be able to build up on that and take it to wherever fits best within your architectures and your system designs and your development lifecycle. How you take that out and put it in is up to you. For example, asset discovery and system IPs. Currently how we're doing some of the security testing is reaching out to you guys through email, to service owners, to infrastructure devs, and trying to gather information via email. It's long-winded. Sometimes you guys get worried when you get a random email saying, give me your VPC ID, we want to start doing scanning. You're like, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? Who are you? What are you scanning for? And there's confusion around that, and it's not a great way of where we want to be. It's not the agile way of working. One of the teams up in Manchester has took one of the tools, and as we said, they were one of the ad hoc implementations. So they've done some really cool stuff with it. They've wrapped it in Lambda functions, they've sent it through to state machines, and they're doing step calls, and it's really cool what they're doing, and I really like it. I think it's a great design. And if we were only working in AWS, I'd probably lean on that as the solution for this. But our objective of this for us in food and commercial is just to pilot this for the whole company. So it doesn't matter if you're in AWS, if you're in Azure, if you're on-premise, wherever you are, this pilot solution that we're building here has to fit every environment. How you adopt it after that, once you own it yourselves, is up to you. But to start with, we need a very simple, keep it simple way of deploying this. So what did we identify? We identified that it needs to be quick. We need to get this out to the estate. We need everybody doing secure software development as soon as possible. The risk for the company against GDPR, against the media, of us getting breached, a data loss, whatever it is that comes out of a breach, is too costly for us. So we need security rapid. We need teams using security from the outset. It's got to be configurable, so these tools and utilities we give you, they've got to fit for your project, they've got to be customizable, they've got to take in your specific environment variables that you need for your projects. They need to be automated, they need to be agile, they need to be plugged into your pipelines and part of your CI/CD deliveries. They need to be reusable across the estate. You can't just fit for one project and not for others. And they need to be cross-platform. We need to make sure that we work across the different technologies in the estate. Any questions on that? Go on, Michael, if you're sticky on it.
So, experience with these tools is analysing the reports that you get from it.
You're asking all the hard questions, aren't you, Michael? Go ahead.
So, so obviously, you might get false positives and so on and so on. So obviously, the team will not have the expertise to analyze those reports. It's your team to kind of support them in the early stages, and then once they get familiar with those, understanding those reports.
Yeah. So you're right. So one of the objectives is to get the vulnerability report and then identify the tasks needed to go into the backlog, right, from this vulnerability report. What are the issues we want to address, and when do we want to address them? It's still down to you guys when you want to address them, because you're identifying them early. You might do them in sprint 4, 5 or 6, or wherever you feel is best fitted into your development life cycle. But to identify them, to find out are they false positives, because some of these tools to begin with will identify a lot of false positives, because that's the way these tools work. They need to learn with your system, so you need to feed it that this is actually not an issue for us, or something that that the system's identified, the tools have identified. You might caveat as a business risk, an acceptable risk, or you need to mark it as a non-exploitable. And you can do that through the tools. They're configurable, the tools. You can do that through the REST APIs. Thanks a lot. And as you go on, working with your analysts and your security testers and in your teams, we'll identify that, and it'll build up, it'll get more mature as we go. So I'm conscious that we're losing people. So how do we implement them? We automate them through your pipelines, CI/CD pipelines. It's just another step, another block within there. As you deploy through to your development, you have a set of instructions, what you want to do, carry out various testing. That's what we want to follow on. We want to be part of that automated pipeline, whether we fit into an existing set of instructions deployed to a development step, and the last point of that is security testing, or we have our own step within your pipeline, and it's for security environments to be spun up and security tests to be called. It's configurable, and it's where we want to be. So if we want to automate them, get them into your pipelines, so we can call them from anywhere within in the development life cycle. A simple set of API instructions should be what we want with the vendors' SDKs. Register a project. Very simplistically, register a project, do a scan, deliver a report. The variations of that, of course, we want it to be smart, but at a high level, that's all we want happening, is scan, report, so we can analyze. Platform agnostic, as I've talked about, and configurable. There's a lot of concern about if we introduce these tools to you within your pipelines, and some of you got concerns that the dynamic tests take a long time and it'll block up your delivery mechanisms. Well, there's ways we can resolve that, and we can isolate that pipeline security testing so it doesn't block, it's in non-blocking mode. So, these concerns we're thinking about, and we're building them into our design. We really want to get the community, the engineering community as well, because this is really for the engineering community to implement and use and own. So we want your feedback on any issues that you feel around there, and concerns around that. This is basically the pipeline. This is just a block image taken off there, so it doesn't reflect exactly what you guys are working in, but it's a pipeline. We commit some code, we build an application or an environment, we test it, and if it's successful, we deploy it. That's what we want to do. We want to just plug into this step within that pipeline and plug in the automation of our security tools. Where are we now? We're working with the store locator as a pilot project, and we're in talk to as much people as possible, with Azure devs, with yourselves, delivery managers, infrastructure developers, engineering managers, to make sure that we've got all your concerns and requirements in there and that we're catering for them. We've got a few sprints. We've split it up into 3 sprints. We've given very short time to design, build and deliver this as a pilot. So it won't be all bells and whistles at the end of this cycle. It'll just be a very simple, basic solution for the SSDLC. We've had the vendors in, so we feel like these are SaaS solutions, so they're software as a service. They're hosted environments for us. It's not something we have on the estate. All 3 of the vendors have their own cloud hosted services for us. And we've had all the vendors in, we've discussed what's the best approach to integrating with your SaaS solution, and all three agree that the API approach, integration through their SDK is the best approach. It's consistent for all three vendors, they all have RESTful APIs, they all have a Python SDK approach to wrapping them up in. It's a very simple approach, platform agnostic. And so we took the best advice from the vendors of what they've done for other FTSE 100 companies out there. And that's the approach that we're following, and we're working with them to make sure that we stick in guidance with their best practices. What are we hoping to have? What are we hoping to deliver out of this pilot? We're hoping to have 3 simple utilities that are configurable for each project, which is, like we said, just a basic Python utility that can be called from anywhere and will interact with the SaaS solution hosted and do scans on your infrastructure, on your services, and deliver you that vulnerability report. We've got a Confluence page set up, so if you just search on Confluence for SSDLC, you should find some designs, some talks on there, some API documentation for the different vendors, overviews of the tools that we're using. That's where we're storing all our documentation. Contact people are also on that Confluence page, and we'll find us on Teams as well to discuss. For any questions. This is what we're trying to achieve out of this awareness talks, is an open forum, because we don't feel like we know everything, and we feel like together we can resolve any issues that you feel you have, or answer any of the questions that you're not sure about. So hit us up on Teams. Challenges is really what we want. We really want you guys to challenge us with all of the aspects that you feel we're not covering, all the concerns that you've got around security testing. We really want you to put a spanner in the works with our designs. Where will it not work? How do you see it not working? Anything you can challenge us on will really help us. So we open that up, and we really want you to do that. And that's what this platform is. So I hope that's been of some use to you. I hope that's been informational. I hope that's cleared up some stuff around the SSDLC, what it is, and clear up any confusions you might have. Any questions?
So post-pilot, do you have any timeline in mind for adoption of this process?
It's being forced on us. It's not something I've come up with, although I really stand by this, but it's the SLT, it's the guys at the very top. It's Mon that's pushing this from security. It's our CISO. He wants this across the entire estate yesterday. So we've been given a very short time to build such a solution. We've not done it before. I mean, when you talk in the industry outside, we're a bit of pioneering here. I mean, not most companies are not doing agile security. They're doing the same security model that we do, which is bolted on at the end, and they've got people in chaos running around with risks and all sorts that we've got currently. We can resolve a lot of that. We can fix a lot of that, and we can really pioneer security testing if we wrap this up. So 6 weeks. We're already in our 2nd week. We've got 4 weeks left. It's a very tight, you guys will know in project delivery, it's a short time span. We really need some help if you've got a resource. We're hunting down a Python resource, or we've got budget for it. If you've got a spare resource, technical resource that you want to, get involved with us, we can put a cost to him or her, and if you can loan us to him, that would be beneficial to us. Get involved as much as you can. We really need you guys, especially from the engineering infrastructure, engineering managers, software developers, to really, you're going to own these tools, guys, so we want you guys to really give us feedback. We're not really getting that engagement that we've discussed is not really there. We're not getting it. I'm trying to get out to you guys, but I need you guys to come back to me as well and challenge it. We're all engineers there. We're all solutionizing. We're all building. We're all from the same mindset. So let's see what problems you guys see in having a SSDLC. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you.